Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to our community. Coming to you from the I've Decided Studios. And our community is sponsored by the Greater Peoria Family YMCA, which I am an employee of, and I'm happy to be here today as your host. So today, we're going to talk about the word breakthrough.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And joining me today is Kim Martin.
Hey, everybody.
One and only queen of I've Decided.
The infamous Kim Martin.
That's right. That's right. So this is probably going to turn into a not so much of an interview, but just Kim Martin discussion, right? Because
yeah.
You're just going to take over because you know all of it. But we'll try to keep.
I'll try not to take over. You're the host here. I want to just.
I am the host, but I'm with you. I'm with you, so it doesn't always work that way. But,
well, I guess that might be true.
But as always, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be with you, and it's nice just to sit and kind of talk about different strategies on how we can be better.
Yeah, well, right? This is what happens when the plan changes.
Yeah.
Our strategy is, well, if we have a plan change, we can do the podcast together. We got plenty to talk about.
Yeah. So you're
here we are.
So you're actually plan B today, right?
I am plan B.
You're filling in. So our guest couldn't make it, and Kim, of course, is always here.
Yeah.
And is ready, always at the ready too, which is important.
Ready and able.
So we're going to talk about the word breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll set the table by defining it for everyone, which you did in your article, and then we'll just use that as our foundation. Breakthrough is an important discovery or event that helps to improve a situation or provide an answer to a problem.
Yeah.
Which we all have problems.
We do, don't we?
Right? We all, daily. Some are big, some are small, but there's always something that kind of comes up and gets in our way, and we have to figure out how to navigate that. But, I like the way you framed it in your article about, sometimes we're waiting for a breakthrough for a pretty good period of time, right? Where we're wrestling with a career change, or there's some important goal that we're trying to achieve, and we're just kind of spinning our wheels, right? And I think that happens a lot, and I think that's kind of the part of the process.
Right.
So what do you do during that time to keep yourself motivated, moving forward?
Because it could be years.
Yeah, it could be. It could be weeks.
I mean, because it's a journey, right? I mean, everything is just a journey towards a direction, and so we don't really have the whole clear picture of how long that journey is going to take.
And I think a lot of times, at least and I'm speaking for myself, I don't think that we appreciate it enough that it is a journey.
No,
It is a process, and God's designed it that way because there's opportunities for growth
and learning.
Right. Through the hardest times is when we have the best opportunity to grow.
We learn to persevere. We learn resilience. We learn to be patient.
Yep.
All of those wonderful, good things that are hard for humans.
They are hard. They are.
They're hard for humans, at least this human anyway. But
my mother told me a long, long time ago, she said, don't pray for patience.
No.
Because if you do,
you'll get trials.
You're going to get tested.
You're going to get tested because patience, like perseverance and resilience, that's a mental muscle. So the only way to strengthen that mental muscle is to practice. Just like practice is the way, right? So if you want to be more patient, you have to practice patience. So if you pray for patience, then what your mom is saying, I've heard that saying before, then God's going to allow those trials to come in your life so that you can practice and get better.
Patience.
Yeah, because you can't just be patient.
No,
it's
a process.
It's a workout. It's a mental muscle. It's like saying, "Oh, I'm just going to be healthy." No. Oh, it doesn't work that way. There are lots of things that you have to do to be healthy.
I agree completely. And so you laid it out in your article, several different strategies, I'll call them, of things that we can do during that period of time when we're waiting for the breakthrough to what way I've looked at it is intentionally develop ourselves. We're being intentional about using this time to get better.
Yeah, we're not just sitting and waiting.
Right.
And
we got to keep active.
Can I say too that there's that fine line between having a breakthrough or hanging out in your comfort zone. So we kind of define that just a little bit too. So we're saying that this foundation that we're laying and we're talking about right now while we wait is say we're actively waiting.
Right.
We're doing everything in our power to make the breakthrough happen.
Right.
But it's just not coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not happening. You keep hitting walls.
Yeah.
You're taking the risk. You're taking the chances. You're putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify that a little bit.
I think that's
there.
a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And so we have to stay active through the process, intentional through the process, or we may never see the breakthrough.
Right.
Oftentimes it takes hard work, perseverance, all those things that we've defined
Breakthroughs
earlier.
take action. Yeah.
Because if we just sit and wait and sit on our hands, likely it's not going to happen.
It's been in my experience that it doesn't.
Right.
It's just not going to, because I just don't think that's how God works, really. I really don't. I don't think he doesn't honor it, and he just lets us continue until our eyes are open.
The opposite
and he will help us.
of being active and intentional is what? Being lazy?
Being lazy, just being comfortable, being satisfied, complacent.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to describe it.
Satisfied with mediocrity, which we struggle with in our culture today.
Well, it's easy to be comfortable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like being comfortable too. And it's okay some days, but I mean, there's a balance there too, or, prioritize.
Sure.
But we're called to work and to be active in our purpose and in our life. So, but sometimes we're doing all the work, that I experienced that probably more than anything. And you probably do too. And I think people that are active, people that are working to be better, to working to get to that success level that they want to, I think more than ever, we are waiting it's a constant wait for a breakthrough. Right. And you get a little breakthrough and you're like, woo, and then woo, I need another breakthrough. Right?
Yes, sometimes daily.
So I feel like my whole life is about waiting on a breakthrough.
It's like a roller coaster, right?
There are little breakthroughs along the way.
Well, but that's the...
What do they say? One day my ship's going to sail. One day my purple jet's going to take off.
I believe it will.
I believe so too. I'm not doing this in vain, let me tell you.
No, I know you're not.
Yeah.
You're committed to it.
I'm
100%.
committed.
And you've got a lot of people out there that are investing in you and have confidence in you to help in that process. And I think that's the proof.
Thank you.
That you're finding success. So let's start talking about some of the strategies, as I'll call them, that you kind of outlined in your article. But the first one was self-reflection.
Yes, constant.
Which I don't do enough of.
Really?
No, I don't think I do. I've been working on that recently. And I think there's extreme value in it, right? It's just taking time to reflect, right?
There's beyond,
And trying to understand the why of the challenge, or trying to understand, is what I'm trying to achieve the right thing, right? Maybe the breakthrough isn't happening because it's not the right thing and you need to reevaluate.
Or you're going after it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? So like, I love that question. What is the underlying reason for waiting through the through the breakthrough? Like, why are you going after this? What are you doing? Is the reason you're going after this, a good reason? I mean, does it make sense?
Yeah, and I think an important question to ask yourself during self-reflection is trying to determine the why. Not what are you trying to do or how are you trying to do it. Why are you doing it?
What difference will it make?
Yeah, why is it important? And really having to evaluate that and define that. Because if you can't define the why, then it's probably not worth pursuing.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I do. And I think that there can be more than one. I think you can have more than one reason. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what is the biggest why? And I've talked about this all the time. We've talked about it all the time. And for me, my biggest why is because this is my life's work. This is my calling. I feel that this is what God has called me to do. And I think most people, when you're working towards a higher calling, something that is a part of your purpose and plan, and you have to do it, like you've got this burning desire. That the greatest why is I have to do it. Like, there is not doing it means that I would not be fulfilling my purpose. I don't know what it looks like now. Now there's otherwise, like, okay, that I own my own business. So if you own your own business, then there's no limit to how much money you make. So then I start dreaming about things that
Purple jets
and beach houses and things that money can buy, right? But everybody that knows me knows that money is not my motivator. Right. If money were my motivator, well, I'd just come work for you at the Y.
And I would gladly take you.
You know what I mean? Like, seriously, right. I mean, obviously I don't make a ton of money. I really, truly could make a good salary working somewhere, which is more money than I make now, but this is my life's work. So I just keep investing. And
so you know the why.
I know the why without a
You've probably self-reflected many times over the years and have reaffirmed the why. And maybe it's changed a little.
It changes a little
over time.
It does change, but it all still comes back to the same
thing. You want to help people.
Right? I want people to fulfill their purpose. In, specifically.
Right. So when you reflect, right, you define the why, evaluate and assess your goals, right, making sure that those are all lining up the way that they need to. You can also use that time to determine whether there's some skills that you're lacking and identify some weak spots, and maybe there's some training or education or something like that you could pursue that would help in that regard. Look at your habits. See,
that's a big one.
And in the article it talked about habits you can improve on, and then I immediately thought, what habits do I have that I need to get rid of?
Yes,
because
me too.
I think there's a lot. I don't know. It's fair to say, but so oftentimes there's habits that are distracting us more so than they're helping us.
Yeah. Well, we think on them when we have habits that they kind of rule our life in ways. And we think about when we're going to get to do them. It's hard to be present in the moment and see what's happening around you when your mind is going, oh, I can't wait to get here so I can do that, to satisfy that habit. And it could be a habitual habit of staying up too late. So then you're not well rested. It could be a habit of addictions. It could be, a habit of sleeping in too late, hitting the snooze button. The list, spending too much money. Yes, scrolling. Right. Spending too much money, spending more money than you have. And then that could keep you from getting a breakthrough, because if the opportunity arises, then you may not have the finances to jump on the opportunity.
And that was one of your points, right, John? Which is towards the end. But that's okay. But that's an important point. If that's a distraction for you or a bad habit for you, it's going to inhibit your ability to be ready when the opportunity presents itself.
And bad habits gnaw at us all the time. Sure, we know we shouldn't be doing it, right? And so we all have them. We don't want to share about our bad habits because we think we're the only one with them, but we all have them. But those bad habits, they gnaw at us and all day, and that distracts us. We're like, I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I even thinking about that? I shouldn't.
So if you don't take the time to self-reflect and recognize, the likelihood of making change that's positive for you to push forward is lessened, right? You got to be intentional. So when you talk about self-reflection, how often, and maybe there's not a schedule for it, but I think there almost should be at least a minimal schedule. You do self-reflecting annually?
No, I self-reflect daily, every day.
Every day.
Take
some time intentionally?
Intentionally. I do it while I'm running. I do it when I'm reading my Bible. I do it when I'm in the shower, when I'm getting ready, if I'm listening to a sermon. I'm always going, Lord, what do you want me to do? Lord, what should I do different? Lord, where am I falling short?
That's good.
Lord, how can I be a better mom? How can I be a better wife? How can I lead? How can I? I'm obsessed with it.
It's a habit.
And maybe I don't know. Can you be with self-reflection? I don't beat myself up or anything. No, it's not in a negative light. It's truly, I just so badly want to be on God's plan. And that's the truth. Like I'm so got a lot to do and I'm always trying to be better and learn and better and do better. And I fall short all the time. But at the end of the day, it is very, very, very important for me that I feel like I've done my part. Like I'm not God. I have no idea what he's up to most of the time. But I just want, I'm like, I want
But
to
you
do
know
my
he's
part.
there,
I
right?
know he's there, and I want to do
Yeah.
my part.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's important. So the answer to my question is, from a scheduling standpoint, is do it often.
As much as you
Right.
can.
Right, as much as you
I
need
mean,
to.
yeah, I mean, for me, I feel my stability comes from my faith.
Sure.
I know there are people that may not have those same faith as me that might be listening to this podcast. So, but meditate on it then. I think that, well, here's what I think. I'm just going to say
it. This is your podcast.
No, it's yours, Andy. I think that God speaks to all of us, whether you believe it or not. I think that that's just the loving God He is. So I think that He's always, whether you think you believe or you don't believe or whatever, He's always wooing. So regardless, I think that if you meditate,
well, the opportunity is always there.
He's gonna maybe use that opportunity to speak to you. I'm not sure.
I agree
you
with
could call
you.
it the universe.
Well, no, but that's not what it is.
No, of course we know that, but I'm saying,
and the opportunity is there for everyone. And
yeah.
I can't quote the specific scripture, but it's there. If all we got to do is knock on the door, right? He's there, and He's
whether you believe it or not, He is there.
Step in and ask for the help that we need, and then we can receive it. And I think that that's important. I do agree with you that always there, always present, ready to, but we have a choice to make, right, in that regard. So self-reflection is a huge piece of managing the time frame of waiting for your breakthrough.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you can
assess.
find the breakthrough in the self-reflection. I think that's why I put that first. I mean, I almost only wanted to go with that, but then I'm like, no, there's a lot of other things we could do.
Yeah, but
I could have went for days talking about that. But
so, and I think if you really look at read the article and start to look at it, you can. Self-reflection is the main point, and everything else is kind of a sub-point of each one, because the next one is about developing skills. Right. And as you self-reflect, you start to realize that maybe where you're lacking in some skills, and then you can start to focus in on those. And it flows well in that regard. But, whether it's education or it's different abilities that
new technology.
Technology.
Now we got AI, Chat GPT. And we can say, oh gosh, I can't learn another thing, but you get left behind. Yeah. And if you get left behind, there's somebody coming and ready to jump ahead of you. And
have to adapt.
You have to be ready, willing, and, able to adapt. Yeah. And so I try not to overthink, argue things too much. I'm like, okay, they're all doing that. I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah,
I'm going to need people. I'm going to have people that want to know how to do it, that come on board, and I've decided I need to have some knowledge and wisdom of it.
Right. Well, and so if we're in any industry, any business, we have to be up to speed as best we can on technology, because our users are up to speed and they want to access our industry through technology.
Well, let's think about the biggest breakthrough that we can think of. What company do you think had the biggest breakthrough when we hit COVID? They've been in business. Zoom. Yes. They've been in business. They had the platform. They knew what was coming. They knew what they were seeking was they were looking at the younger generation going, they're not going to work in an office. They were setting it up, aligning it up. Now, there's a running joke that the CEO of Zoom, caused COVID. We know that's not true. That's a joke. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, we hope it is. No, we believe it is. I don't think he's been charged at all with any of those. But it's funny to think that. But no, the fact is that he was ready. He was ahead of the game. And his breakthrough happened not how he thought it was going to. No. I guarantee you he never said, Lord, please bring on a pandemic where everybody has to stay home.
But your point is right. He was ready. They had the tool created. They were probably trying to figure out how do we, get this out there into people's hands. And he was ready to. It
was almost like it's like Noah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how long did Noah build the ark? 40 was it 40 years? 40 years? I mean, I'm guessing. I think everything in the Bible's 40. 40 years, that's a good guess.
A lot of 40s and a lot of 70s.
That's a good guess. A long, long time in the whole wide world at that time, whatever that world looked like. But all the people, gave him a hard time,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
And he just kept building the
Yeah,
ark.
he kept saying it was going to rain, and nobody knew what he was talking about.
And nobody even knew what rain was.
Nobody believed it, and all of a sudden,
so
there it was.
But God,
there was the pandemic of the time.
When you think about it, though, oh my gosh, this just gives me chills. This is why it's so important that we do what we're called to do. I mean, I don't even know who the CEO of Zoom is, honestly. I don't know his name. I don't know, is it a he or her or what?
Right.
No idea. I should probably know that, but I don't know why, but I don't.
You don't need to
yeah, I don't know.
How to use
yeah, and I do. And, but, I think about that, and it's like, they didn't know what was coming. They just knew that this was a good idea. And whoever's working, it's like, we got to do, for whatever reason, you can't stop doing it. And then boom, it really was life-saving for a lot of companies, myself included.
Absolutely.
And for people, it just kind of was, it really was helpful. And it just, what if they'd have just said, this is stupid. God put that idea in their heart, and they just was like, that's stupid. Nobody's going to want to have meetings virtually.
Right. No, you're right.
I don't know.
So the point, I think, to take out of the whole developing skills piece is to continuous learning has its benefits, right? When we're committed to learning and growing through that process, it's going to help us be prepared when the breakthrough comes, right? All right, build out your network, right?
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that. The importance of expanding your network and the people that you work with, serve, have relationships with, who can help build connections for you, right? The more, we'll call them assets, you have out in the community, the better things are going to be for you.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be successful, how you really can ultimately have those bigger breakthroughs that you need to really move you to the next level if you're not building and growing your network. I many times I've had someone connect me to someone simply because of being a part of the network, and they're around a table in a conversation, and somebody goes, oh, we should call Kim.
Right.
I know Kim.
I know so-and-so.
And I do this. We do it with each other. I do it. I'm like, oh, well, you should call Andy, or you should, wherever you have, when you know people, the more people you know and the more people that know you. And I think the other thing behind that networking is building relationships, like genuine, trustworthy relationships where people feel like they can drop your name when necessary because they don't think you're going to let them down. I think that is key. I mean, if you're just getting out there, gallivanting around, not really building real relationships, you're not going to drop somebody. You're the CEO at the Y. You're not going to, and I have a community of people that believe that if I tell them something, I'm telling them the truth. We're not going to refer or drop someone's name if we don't feel we can trust them. If they might let us down, we have to be very confident that we can say, I know if I tell them about Kim, she's not going to let me down. Yeah. If I tell them about Andy, I know he's not going to let me down.
Well, and the more people that you have confidence in, that have confidence in you, that understand what challenges you're going through, they're going to be able to help you, right? Maybe they can help you with the self-reflection piece. They can help you develop additional skills, introduce you to people who can provide you some of the encouragement that you need in whatever framework that you needed to get to the next level.
Yeah. Or what do they say? You can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So they can help you see things that you can't see too.
That's right.
Put a different set of eyes on it.
Yeah. So incremental goals, right? You have the ultimate goal of whatever the breakthrough is that you're searching for.
Right.
But setting smaller incremental goals is a good strategy because it builds momentum, number one, and it puts, I think, the challenge into perspective, right? That you can't get from point A to point Z in one step, typically,
right?
Unless you win the lottery. Or
but even that, I don't know if that's the best way. We hear stories about it, right?
It's probably not. So you got to be able to break it down into smaller bite-sized nuggets that you can bite off effectively and efficiently, because that's going to give you confidence.
Small victories?
Yeah, small victories, I think, build up into big victories. And, I liken it to, from a sports analogy, if you look at, a football team, most football teams are moving down the field in bite-sized, steps. And the ultimate goal is to get to the end zone.
Right.
There's a strategy on how they're going to do that. And every now and then there's a big play that they can just.
There's an interception.
Right.
And then the guy runs down the field and everybody's hooting and hollering and shouting. Mm-hmm. But really, how often does that happen?
Not that often.
It is not the play that wins the game. Yeah, you're a hero in that little bit of a moment, but those types of plays are not going to get you to the Super Bowl. It's those little plays that move you down the field every game. Yeah. That's going to get that team to the Super Bowl. It's
planned out. It's intentional.
Yes.
It's methodical. There's strategy behind it, and you've got to be able to build those.
And they practice
momentum. Yeah, and there's a ton of practice. Absolutely, and that's part of it. You've really got to think about what can I do today that's going to get me to tomorrow.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And my goal is 6 months away, and I can't get from now to March 30th.
Right.
Right. That quickly. I've got to understand what I got to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month in order to tackle that. I think you've really got to frame it up that way.
Yeah.
Number one, because it creates a plan and a strategy, and number two, it gives you the momentum to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that format.
I think goals are. I think that we overlook setting those little goals. It's those little goals that busy work, those little goals every day that really do move us forward when we're kind of feeling burned out or like we're kind of sitting at a standstill or we don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Just do something. Mm-hmm. There's a lady who's built an entire coaching career around it starts with water. She's doing phenomenal. And it's like, I'm in envy of her really, because I'm like, duh, I say that all the time to everybody, I should have started this movement. It starts with water. And it said, and what she's saying is, if you can't even consume the amount of water you should be consuming every day, how are you really ever going to get accomplished to anything? Anything.
Does coffee contain water?
Coffee is made with water. It does not count as water, and you know that. That doesn't count as water. You want it to. People keep asking that because they just want somebody to say, "Yeah, yes, it does."
Right, we want
but coffee is actually it dehydrates you, so you actually have to drink more water when you drink coffee. Now, some teas, good quality, non-caffeinated teas. Do count as water without sugar. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked on that. We digress. But the point is, we overlook those little things. People want to lose weight. They want to get healthy, whatever. And it's like, it starts with water. Mm-hmm. You got to drink all the water you're supposed to drink. Every life, it starts with water. Even Jesus says, I am the living water. True. So anyway, okay, there we go. Now we're having church. That happens every time I'm on the podcast. Don't you watch my podcast?
Every now and then. Cultivate resilience and patience.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestled with this one when I was kind of preparing for the conversation because waiting is hard. Waiting sucks. I'm not good at it. When I get my mind
waiting in line is the worst.
It's awful.
Waiting in a traffic jam. That's all I think about. Waiting in traffic jams, waiting in lines, waiting just to be waiting to hurry through wherever you are. Anyway, okay, yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm not good at waiting, but I do understand the importance of it. And I believe resilience and patience and all those things are critical for us. Mm-hmm. We have to learn how to become patient. We have to learn how to be resilient and rebound from challenges and struggles and failures, which we all face every single day. But let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think the cultivation of resilience and patience is important?
Well, obviously, resilience helps you get back up when you get knocked down, right? So wherever we're traveling to in this world, resilience is a huge part of it because we're going to get knocked down. Sure. And so you got to be resilient. You got to be able to bounce back. and I think that's what resilience does. And I think patience is the fruit of the Spirit. I think that, as I just think about myself as a Christian, as a child of God, and I struggle practicing patience as well. And I have to work on it all the time, but I want to be patient. I really want to be patient. I don't want to have a label that I'm not patient, because then that's not a fruit of the Spirit. I don't want somebody to go, that Kim Martin, man, don't stand in line with her.
Yeah, nobody wants to be around people who aren't patient.
Yeah, you don't want to get in line with Kim. You'll get your earful. I don't want that. Although I know I can behave impatiently, I also know that it's a bad behavior. It's like your kid. It's your kid it's like when I behave impatiently, I am being a bad child to my Father in heaven. That is not who I am. And so I think patience truly is a character of God. It's a quality that He wants all of His children to have. And it's one that you're fine. It's okay. It's allergy season. Those farmers out there are working.
If that's it or not, but I think it's not so much about standing in line, but I think that's a good point, a good analogy. But when we're resilient and patient as we're going through the struggle or the challenge, it's gonna help us be better prepared. Right? We're gonna set a better example for ourselves, for others around us, when we can model those types of behaviors and develop those strengths. And I'm sorry for coughing.
It's okay. We can see things clearer. Yeah. When you get frustrated, when you, and I mean us and people, when I get frustrated, the listeners, when you guys get frustrated, think about it. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when I get frustrated, I don't even know which way I'm going. I don't know if I'm coming or going. Clouds because judgment. Yes, that's exactly right. It clouds your judgment. And then you can miss things. You can really miss some opportunities. It causes your personality is not shining. Let's just say that.
No, I think you're right.
So I think
if you're impatient, let's think about it. The things that we've talked about. If you're an impatient person, it's going to be hard to build out your network, because people who might be able to help you may not want to be around you.
Right, because they're like, man, they're angry elf.
You're going to miss the opportunity to set those incremental goals and achieve them, right? Because you're thinking maybe too far ahead.
Right.
And that's important too. So the patience part of it is really going to help us achieve success in a lot of these other areas that we talked about. And I think that that's really important. Pursuing passion projects. Go ahead.
No, I think you are a good example of that, like in coaching. That's a passion project.
Sure it is.
Project, right? Yep. You don't get paid necessarily to do that. So in some aspects maybe, but it won't be much, I can tell you that. And if there is, most of the time that's a volunteer role for dads.
A lot of people.
I mean, unless you work, if coaching is your career, but if you're coaching your daughter's basketball team, odds are you're volunteering coaching. And that's a passion project. That's just an example. You're putting your skills. I mean, you're a CEO, you're a coach. That's what you do. You're coaching your whole staff that's kind of a similar role. And so you're putting your skills to good use.
For sure. And I like the way you framed it up in the article, is it's also providing some balance for you. Because if you're just solely focused on the breakthrough of trying to achieve this goal, 100% of the time, that's taxing.
Ugh,
that's hard.
That would be horrible.
Right? And when you're really going through the throes of it and the challenges facing you, it could be overwhelming and really discouraging to enough where you
quit.
Stop.
You're going to quit because
if you have some balance
yes.
and you're doing other things that you like to do, it creates a little bit of separation, a little bit of distraction. Mm-hmm. Not that you want to forget about it, but you got to refresh and rejuvenate mm-hmm. and, you know, provide some joy.
Yeah.
for yourself.
Well, you have other goals.
Right.
I mean, you have other.
You should have.
Yeah. You know, I mean, of course, I have a goal of having a successful personal development organization that's reaching as many people as God will allow me to reach.
Right.
Duh. But that is not my only goal. I have a goal to be healthy. I have a
You're
goal.
Running another marathon.
I'm running a marathon. I have a goal to be a good wife and having, a stable home and my kid, like my kids.
Sure.
And I mean, lots of different goals.
Yep. And you have to pour some time and some passion and some energy into those other goals. I think helps you be successful.
Yes.
And maybe whatever the main goal is.
Absolutely.
Or the priority is.
Mm-hmm.
Volunteering
Mm-hmm.
and giving back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. Why is that important?
I think, well, first it just feeds our soul.
It does.
I think it's being generous with your time,
Yeah.
right? So time, talent, and treasure.
Yeah.
So when you are volunteering, you're being generous with your time, maybe all three of those, but definitely your time and talents.
Yeah.
And so it feeds your soul and makes you feel good to help. And I think it's a piece of, contribution is one of our 10 pieces of the puzzle for success. So I think it's a part of your success to volunteer and give back. And it can be the simplest little things. I mean, I volunteer at a fish fry. It doesn't have to be grandiose.
No, it doesn't. But you're giving back, you're supporting the needs of others, and you're helping, and there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
So here's an example. Just had this conversation today with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife had a garage sale over the weekend. It didn't go as well as what she had hoped for.
Right, she probably worked your butt off. I've had one too.
A lot of anybody who's done that knows.
Yes.
Right?
Is this the first time she's ever done it?
No, she's done it. But if you really add up the amount of time and the energy that you put into it, it's probably not going to pay you what it's worth.
Right, don't need it.
But anyway, so this week she's off school because they're on their fall break, and she's going around town and donating stuff to different places. And she called me right around lunchtime and said, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I just left Esther House where I donated a bunch of the clothes." And she said, this was almost a direct quote. She said, "I got more joy out of doing that than I did in the entire garage sale."
Right.
Right? Of just taking these clothes and games for the kids to Esther House for these mothers and these kids that are in so much need. And the amount of joy that they showed in receiving it just filled her heart up.
Yep.
So much. And it's so important. And I could just tell, even though on the phone, that she was driving in the car, but I don't think that car was touching the ground while she was driving it, because she was so happy about what she was able to do for somebody else and how much energy that gives somebody and lifts their spirits. It's so important.
I had one yard sale and I put so much time and work and effort into that yard sale. And then I made like $200 and I still had a ton of stuff left over. I was like,
never again.
I will never do this again. I'm going right to the Esther House or to the Mission Mark. So now I just clean out my closets and load up my car and take it. I'm like, it's just, but some people enjoy that. If you get enjoyment out of that.
Well, sure.
I mean,
sure.
for some people, they really like that kind of.
But the point of the story is, and to your point before that is, when you give back and you help others, it fills you up. It gives you energy.
It makes you feel
gives you joy, which propels you forward to maybe
gives you motivation.
Go back and fight for what you want, right?
Contribute. A lot of times, you can do some free volunteering in the field that you are good at.
Right.
It's kind of like what I said about, if you're volunteering coaching, you're putting your good skills to use helping.
Yep.
And I've done that with my coaching, success coaching, contributed to not-for-profits, like single moms and things like that. Right. And it just, it helps you get better. Sure. It sharpens your skills and you're contributing back. And so at least you're still putting your purpose, what you were born to do, to good use anyway. So,
all right. Well, the last step in your article is financial planning. We touched on that a little bit.
We talked about it. Yeah.
You got to be financially prepared. You got to manage
it's a hard one.
It is hard because there's always something.
I feel like I need a breakthrough in my finances. That's
Well, have
like
you
something.
self-reflected?
I know. I need to
Right?
self-reflect
Have you
on
built
that.
out your network?
Well, I think just like everybody, we want what we want, and we want it now.
Right.
And so we do things, and we take vacations, and we might take a little more elaborate vacations than we necessarily should.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a little behind, then you got to play catch up. It's kind of a tit for tat kind of thing. But yeah, finances are important.
But you got to be prepared, right? When
Just
you're
like
working
water.
towards a goal. Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of the puzzle. And it's, if we're living our life the way we should be, we've got to be responsible with our finances.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's another element that I think works well in this framework, and we touched on it several times throughout the conversation. And I know it comes up for you and I because we practice a life of faith and profess a belief in God and Jesus Christ and all those things. But I think seeking spiritual guidance is important.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think we talked about it
yes.
and throughout here, but I think being prayerful, worshiping through song or however you do that, reading your Bible, and then just listening for direction is so important and can help us in this whole process of trying to meander through the wilderness of this breakthrough.
Well, I think that when I talk about self-reflection, that's what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. I'm not, I probably should call it, self-reflection, meaning I'm asking the God of the universe, my Father in heaven. But I 100%.
Well, and some of that spiritual guidance can even come in human form, right? Whether it be through a pastor of your church or a friend
a brother or sister in Christ
believes in the same way. Doesn't always have to be just a direct line to God through prayer, but just having conversation and leaning into others who have that type of relationship.
Seeking wisdom. Yeah. I like that. I agree that could fall under developing skills, maybe, but I think seeking wisdom could have been a separate, and in that would be praying, seeking God's wisdom, seeking the wisdom of people that have been down the same road as you, right? So seeking wisdom, I think, is
one of the things
key.
that I've come to realize here most recently is, it's easy to pray. I think it's easy to pray, especially if it's during a devotion time where I'm alone. It's hard to be still and listen. And that's the part where I'm really working on more intentionally, is just have my prayer time, my scripture time, whenever that is, morning or night, and then just take some time and be quiet.
I set my clock. I try to set my clock a lot of times to do it. And I'm telling you, 3 minutes can feel like a lifetime. I set it for 3 minutes one time, and I looked at my clock like 5 times in 3 minutes. And it's just so funny. Like, you're sitting there and you're like, why is this so hard?
I don't know, because we're human.
I want to hear what God has to say. Why can't I just sit here with my eyes closed and relax?
I don't think you have to sit still and...
Maybe that's a mistake.
Being quiet for you could be on your run.
Well, yes.
Right? You're out doing your physical
I do listen.
exercise.
I think I probably listen the most when I'm running.
Probably do.
I really do. Which is why I probably get my best ideas when I'm out running. I say that all the time. My best ideas come when I'm running.
That's when you start firing off those text messages, right?
My best ideas come when I'm out running, and I'm sure it's because I'm listening. I'm gasping for air, so I can't talk much.
That's true. But you're in a mindset of quietness.
Yes.
Right?
No, your mind is very quieted, and you're not thinking about, you really are. That's the one of the reasons I keep running is that part of it. Like I hate running. I really do. But I love how it makes me feel. And one of those feelings is that feeling of not thinking. Like, I'm not thinking about anything a lot of times. I'm just thinking about, when am I going to be done? The next step.
That's good.
So anyway, that's true. I like that though. I do love that. Seeking wisdom, prayer, seeking wisdom from, the right source. How about we say that?
True.
Seeking wisdom from the right source. On a side note, a lot of times we seek wisdom from people that we know is going to justify our behavior, because we want to hear what we want to hear. So make sure that's very dangerous. And so make sure we are seeking wisdom from someone who has success and wise counsel.
Yeah.
For me, wise counsel would be another Christian. I would not seek counsel from someone who's not.
Right.
And that's number one. And number two, it would need to be someone who I feel has experience in what I'm seeking successfully. They've successfully accomplished what I'm trying to do. Those are the two things that would be very important to me. Right. I wouldn't want to seek wisdom from someone who's going through the same thing I'm going through right now, and that's I think that's where we make a big mistake. We start, what do they say? Misery loves company, or the same birds of a feather flock together. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Yeah. And I think we can really go down a wrong path when we do that, because then we just are justified.
You hold each other back.
Right?
So because you're comfortable.
Well, we don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah.
We want to hear somebody say justify what we're doing. Yeah. And so, I can think of many times in my life that,
we've all been there.
That's where regret comes from, right?
I think so.
Anyway,
Well,
we could talk all day, Andy.
We could. We don't have all day.
But we don't.
To do, Kim.
We have things to do, people to see.
Well, thank you for
breakthroughs to happen.
Thank you for filling in.
It's always fun when I get a chance to talk to you. I love it.
Sharing your wisdom.
I feel like we haven't talked in a while, so this has been good.
So I don't have to talk to you after?
No, we have plenty to talk about. You're like, I can actually leave when I'm done with the podcast. You're not going to grab my arm and say, oh, yeah, Andy. Anyway.
Well, let me wrap this thing up so we can talk about whatever else we need to talk
Okay.
about. Well, thank you for joining us today on our community. Hopefully this has been helpful dialogue for you. And we just want you to know that, here at our community, we strive to bring forth wisdom and knowledge and real life examples that can just help you achieve your dreams and goals. So we'll see you next time here on our community.
Thank you.